Hey, what is up everyone? Hope you're all having a wonderful time. Here we have a quick guide for the AutoBomber Void Knight in last Epoch. The AutoBomber Void Knight is a strong build that can be played as a beginner build, as well being very viable at the endgame with a lot of different combinations and setups to choose from. In this video we're going to focus on the tankier version, which is going to be the two-hander setup for maximum damage reduction up to a total of 65%. We get 30% from our armor and another 35% from our talents. The name of the build, AutoBomber, comes from using the skill Devouring Orb that will orbit around us, dealing void damage to enemies it's come in contact with. It will also send out Abyss Orbs that will seek out enemies as well, detonating and dealing even more void damage. This is mainly used for clearing, as it also sends out void rifts around each orb when a nearby enemy dies. This skill is set up as a loop that will continue to cast the skill for you by simply keybinding your skills to one of the numpad keys. Then at the same time after you press your skill you want to press numlock, and this will make the skill to start a loop so you don't have to worry about it. You can do this to as many skills as you want, but I would recommend you to only use it on the Devouring Orb and also Anomaly, which is another skill that we use to buff ourselves for more damage. For bosses and elites we're using Volatile Reversal to boost the damage even further. The playstyle of the build is a bit janky, as we're actually casting the skills that we are putting on a loop, and it can get a while to get used to, but after a while it's not too bad. It can be a bit annoying on some boss fights, as you might get stuck in a cast animation when you need to get out of, for example, a boss mechanic. The good thing here though is that the build is quite tanky. Cast speed is very good as well, as it will speed up the animation and also improve the single target of the build. We're using Smite as our filler skill for single target, and this has been fully converted from fire to void damage. The build also benefits greatly from vitality, as it not only provides a lot of health for us, but it will also boost the damage for both the Devouring Orb and also the skill Smite. For the final we are using Lunge, which is really great to move around with its low cooldown. We're also casting a Smite skill on the target that we jump to. Some pros for this build: it's got some good map clearing, and it can be a very tanky build. It's also a beginner friendly build with a lot of improvements for the end game. For some cons here, it got lack of single target, I would say. You will need quite a bit of investment to get those numbers up. And another one, as I mentioned, is the janky playstyle. This is not for everyone. For the uniques there are quite a bit to choose from, and some are quite rare as well, but as I mentioned before, you can play this without any uniques, but there are some that works really great for this build. Omnividence is a two-hander staff that provides a lot of great stats for this build. We get +1 to level of void spell skills, -5 spell void mana cost, great to be able to keep our loops going, and up to 20% increased void cast speed, up to 100% of damage reflected, and lastly up to 300% increased spell void damage. If you're going for a rare option here, going for a temple staff with this -3 spell mana cost helps out. If you're going for a one-hander, wands also have -2 spell mana cost. Scepters do have a prefix that you can get to even more minus spell mana cost. And if you're going for a one-hander, you can use a offhand catalyst, for instance, a crystal skull here, to improve the base critical strike chance of the spell up to 6%. And if you want to go for a more tankier option, just a normal shield works here as well. Titan Heart is another unique for this build with its unique modifier, 15% less damage taken while wielding a two-hander melee weapon. We also get a huge amount of increased health, up to 40%, and the chest makes us unable to regen health. However, it doesn't really matter, as we leech health from all of our void damage that we deal to enemies. Ravenous Void, for its unique modifier, gain a stack of Void Barrier every 5 seconds while above your endurance threshold. And this Void Barrier stacks up to 3 times and make you take 5% less damage per stack, so this is a total of 15. We also get some other defensive perks here, like less Void damage taken, physical damage taken as a Void, and also endurance. Code of an Erased Sentinel gives us +1 to level of all Sentinel skills, some increased armor, and also a percentage of our armor mitigation also will apply to damage over time. As this is a Weaver Will unique, the rest of the stats on this will be different for everyone, but some stats like critical strike chance, multiplier, void damage or health is some of the more useful ones. For some stats, try to go for health, resist, critical strike avoidance for the cap, vitality, increased void damage and spell damage, increased cast speed, increased spell critical strike chance and the normal crit chance, critical strike multiplier, increased cooldown recovery speed, and for the class specific stats, try to go for +2 level of Devouring Orb with the increased void damage and also increased void damage with the flat spell void damage. Idols, try to go for 2 ornated idols with increased echo damage when a skill is echoed and also chance to shred armor on hit. We want 1 large idol with chance to gain inspiration when you kill an enemy with a void skill for the 20% cooldown recovery speed. Also try to get some health on here as well. For the rest of the slots, try to go for humble idols with vitality as increase both health and the damage for our skills, and also whatever resist that you would be in need of. For the blessings, some of the more notable ones is going to be from the timeline The Black Sun, and here you can get the chance to shred void resist on hit. Reign of Dragon, we can get the critical strike bonus up to 70%, and we can also go for 20% to all resistance here if we don't need the critical strike avoidance. The Age of Winter for up to 150 flat endurance threshold or increased armor up to 70%. Timeline Spears of Fire for a percentage endurance up to 27%. Here you can also go for chance to apply Fraction Hate, which is another one that you can have if you don't have it on one of your gear pieces. So let's go over quickly the most important nodes for the skills, starting with Devouring Orb. So this is going to be the main ability for our AutoBomber loop, and it will deal damage whenever it comes in contact with enemies. We're using Void Adept here for the more void damage multiplier, and this stat will double if you manage to get 90 plus vitality. This is quite an investment that you have to do, but it is possible. Hollow Orb makes it so the Devouring Orb lasts longer, but the Devouring Orb's Void Rift no longer increase the size or damage for each successful rift. Abyssal Emission makes it so the Devouring Orb will now release a Abyssal Orb, and Cathodic Torment makes so the Abyssal Orb will be cast more frequently. Cassilips make it so the Devouring Orb now erupts at the end of its duration, creating a Void Eruption for more damage. We're using Orb Monster here, so Devouring Orb has a shorter cooldown, and also Void Eruption deals more damage. Dark Moon makes it so Devouring Orbs now will orbit around us. Cosmic Impact makes it so it now deals void damage to enemies it collide with. And Extinction here, so it just deals even more damage. Anomaly is another skill that we are using for our loop, and this is mainly going to be for boosting our damage. Medians make it so we get all the perks from the skill at once. Swift Rest for the cooldown recovery speed. Temporal Mastery for a longer duration. Time Lord makes it so the skill will now follow us around. And Decimation for increased critical strike chance. And Mark of Wrath makes it so enemies will take increased void damage for a short duration. The next skill is going to be Volatile Reversal, and this is going to be to boost the damage on elites and bosses. So to start with, we are going to take Incepted Void Rift, so we get a Void Rift at the start. And we're also using Terminal Void Rift, so we get another Void Rift at the arrival. Timeless Wisdom for the cooldown recovery speed. Timeless Vitality for even more recovery speed. Warp Time for the global cast speed. Harbinger of Dust makes it so enemies hit by the Volatile Reversal Void Rift take increased damage for 4 seconds. Furthest Worm will convert the Time Rot on enemies to global void damage per Time Rot stack. Smite is another skill that we are using, and this is going to be mainly for boosting our single target for elites and bosses. We're using Sacrifice here for the huge damage multiplier. Atonement makes it so we don't sacrifice our health anymore. We're using Conviction here for the base critical strike chance. Deep Impact for critical strike multiplier. 1 point in Blinding Flash for the blind chance. The last skill is going to be Lunge, and this is for our mobility skill. We're using Endless Will for some additional cooldown recovery. Cool of the Week for the kill threshold, 15%. Holy Incursion makes it so we will cast a Smite skill when we are using Lunge. Dawn Charge makes it so we will heal ourselves a third of our health when we are using Lunge. And lastly, Unstoppable, so we don't take any damage when we are launching. And here a quick preview of the passive skill tree, but for more information about the build, I do recommend to go and check out the last Epoch build planner. Both for the passives and the skill tree, you can simply use the progression bar at the bottom of the screen to easily see when and where to progress in the build for both the passives and to the skills. To the left of the build planner, you can also get the basic loot filter of the build that will highlight all you need to get for both leveling and for the end game. Link for this will be in the description. So what do you think about the AutoBomber Void Knight? Have you tried it out before or tried another version of it? Feel free to tell me in the comments below. Thanks for watching, don't forget to like and subscribe if you found this video helpful. And with that said, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!